Welcome to U Squared with transformational life coach Christy Karate. This is week 1.
So we'll start just like we start all our other classes with our gratitudes and our proud of. And so I will start and state my gratitude, and I'll state all of those things, and then I'll give a pause and let you write down yours. But we want to set the tone. Maybe it's not so important, but it's so valuable to set this tone this way because our gratitude is the vibration of so many things. It's the vibration of abundance. It's the vibration of that, our vision and our dream. It's so many things. And so we want to set the tone of gratitude, the vibrational frequency. And that's like the warp of a weaving. I like to think of it as a weaving. And then something that we've accomplished, something we're proud of, makes kind of like the weft that then brings it all together. And are proud of, fading that out into the ethers, if you will, actually notifies the I'm thinking of quantum physics right now. It aligns the strings down in the little quarks, in the string theory, and aligns them and notifies them that this is the kind of person that you are. You are moving in this direction. And then, of course, stating a piece of our vision. And the warp and the weft makes the whole cloth. And actually what we're cutting out of it is that vision piece of it. My gratitude is that on days and weeks like this, I'm so grateful to have these tools. I just learned today that my father has to have a minor surgery, but he's an elderly man with lots of complications on Friday. And I'm leaving tomorrow morning for a conference, so I won't be in town. And, so it's just kind of trusting the process, knowing that I can see and change my thoughts to empowering thoughts, all of this work. So I'm just grateful that I have these tools to work with. And I'm proud of, I've been using a lot today as I've been going through my feelings about this, using the feelings, facts, and truths process that I've shared with many of you. And so I'm proud that I'm not just ignoring my feelings, but seeing the truth behind it, and then the facts around it, and then seeing a greater truth about it. And so I'm proud of that. And so I'm going to take a moment and pause here and let you write your gratitude you're proud of. Go ahead and do that. And what we're going to do today is first I'm going to tell you a little bit about how the month is going to go. And then I'm going to do an intro into the concept of the quantum leap, which is basically the first 3 chapters. And then we're actually today going to get into the content of the first 4 principles. And so, I know some of you have read this already. Some of you have been in this work. But even as I'm going through this again, it's reaching me at a deeper level. And so I'm encouraging you to open to a deeper level of how to use this. This month, every week, I want you to listen to the principles as we talk about them and see what action steps you can take this week that move you into your intention. And I also want you to set an intention for 1 month so that you can see the result of this working in your life, of the U squared. Now, your vision is still the core piece of this work, and so keep your vision in the forefront. So you're going to have your vision, your 1 month intention, your 3 month intention, and then you're going to work every month every week on action steps. Okay, so here we go into the content. So U squared. U squared is a high-velocity formula multiplying your personal effectiveness in a quantum leap. And what is a quantum leap? I'm going to read from, if you have your book in front of you, if you want to read along, I'm going to read from page 4 here. a quantum leap is the explosive jump that a particle of matter undergoes in moving from one place to another. In a figurative sense, taking the quantum leap means taking a risk, going off into the uncharted territory with no guide to follow. Physicists studying quantum mechanics note that particles make these jumps without apparent effort and without covering all the bases between the starting and the ending point. It's kind of like you don't want to stop midair. Like when you jump from one stepping stone to the other, it's kind of like you just keep stepping. You keep reaching out and you don't stop midair. You don't need to cover all the bases in between. And so what's going on here? What does this happen? How does this happen? And is it possible for you as an individual to do something very similar in your personal performance? Well, I do know one of our dream builders from, actually several of them made really great quantum leaps, but, is it possible for us to do this in our personal lives? I've done it. I think many of you on this call have done it. And it's like, let's refine the skills. Let's really figure out how to do this. So this is all about quantum physics. It's really how it works. And, it's like when you were learning as a child, first there was squiggles, and those little squiggles became numbers and letters, and then you learned to add, 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals 5. And then you figured out that 5 sets of 5 became 25. And that was 5 sets, right? And then you learned you could multiply it. And then you learned about the exponentials, the power up. And it exponentiated that. Well, you know what? There are so many more laws in effect in our universe that we don't even know about, because we live in an ever-expanding universe, a universe like one song. And when we turn into the invisible powers that are in this universe and learn to harness them and use them, we can have a quantum leap. And why do we want a quantum leap? Because it means freedom in the flow of this ever-expanding universe. This is opposed to standing still. We've talked about this concept before about standing still in the river. It takes so much more effort, and that's what happens when we stand in the flow of our nature, of what's true for us in this ever-expanding universe. That's the struggle. That's where we're stopped in the flow. And we want to learn through these principles about how to go through and express our nature. And so we're going to just jump right in. And what I want you to think about is that as we go into the first principle, which is change your personal rules for success, is I want you to be thinking about how this principle, each of these principles are applying to you. Take notes, and then also see how you can pull action steps out of these. Okay, and I plan on giving you some examples. Okay, so principle number 1 is change your personal rules for success. And, first we must turn our world upside down. We live in a condition-based living world, and we want to change that condition-based living to an expansive way of living, and we need to turn it on its head. But how do we do that? So, even as a child, we learned condition-based thinking, and that was things like don't touch the hot stove, and this conditioning served us well. But we learned to cook, and then we learned to use the stove to our advantage, and now we have the opportunity to take a look at what is holding us back. Visit some of those old beliefs that we don't even realize are running us, and transform them into these invisible principles that are these invisible principles into serving us rather than us living by default. So what is that other way of of living. It's stopping mid-thought. Okay, this is one of the key parts of this work. Stopping in mid-thought and choosing to change your vibrational direction when you're in a low-frequency thought. And change that right in the middle of your thinking. For example, today, I was so many things. Which one do I choose? So I was navigating my father's all of these things. He's ends up having a major complicated scheduling, and I'm like working on this, and then I'm waiting for him at an appointment for the paratransit to show up with him, and I just feel like pulling out my hair. And it's like, no, even in that moment, we need to stop and choose our vibrational direction, our vibrational thinking. And one of the ways to do that, I've shared this with you many times before, is to do 3-6 breathing. And so this is breathing in for the count of 3 and out for the count of 6. And you do this 3 times, and what this does is this calms down the reptilian brain. This calms down the amygdala, which is the part of us that pushes us into fight or flight. Because we can't even think about changing our personal rules for success. We can't even discover what those personal rules of success are unless we stop the low-frequency thinking in the moment that we're having it and using our tools to now change your thought, turn it up. Now, gratitude is a way that we can always turn up the volume, okay? The other thing is to use our vision, to never leave it behind. It's our tool. And we can use that as our personal guidance system. For example, one of my visions is, to really serve people through my coaching. And so I can stop, even in the moment of, that almost panic with where's my dad, why isn't he at his appointment, and you take that breath and then go, and then I look at my vision. I am a transformational life coach. Oh, I live that in my every moment to the very best ability that I have so that I can even serve my father and everyone around me. And using our vision, we want to, I love Thoreau's comment, go confidently in the direction of your dream. And this is like, your vision is like your true north. And you can always use it to say, oh, does this match? Does this fit? Does this allow me to move in that direction? Is this my true north? With anything that you're doing, any conversation you're in, any thought that you're having. But we must choose this. And we must be willing to change our ideas of how things work. And we need to learn to use these invisible principles. So here's an example for changing your personal rules for success. I'm not going to go into the in-depth story. Many of you have heard it. But the story of when I was at a training and I showed up there and said, oh, I'm going to build my practice through the internet, not really interacting with people, and I'm not a speaker. That was the lie. I spoke a lie out loud. I'm not a speaker. I'm not going to do it that way. And see, that was an old rule of mine. And, of course, I had the universe support me through my flying leap to realize that was not true about me. And so you really want to take a look at what are the rules that you thought were the rules of success. And we want to turn those around. And if you dive deeply, you'll know. You'll know when you bump up against these change in these rules for success because you'll become uncomfortable. Yeah. And it's not always fun, right? So this week and right now, think of any action steps that you can take in regard to changing your personal rules for success. Now, principle number 2. Now, I expect you through the week to go and read this more in depth. It's got a lot of content, but I think I'm giving you some pointers here of what to glean out of this and really how to bring it into to your everyday life. Now, quit trying harder. This is one of the hardest ones, and it's also one of my favorite ones. So actually on page 9, the second little paragraph there says, you've got to shift gears. You have to follow new patterns of thought and action. The rules of what works and what doesn't always change, and what doesn't work always change when you are trying to move from normal performance to U squared. So I've read this story many times. I'll read it many more because it's so powerful, but it really tells the story of quit trying harder. So this is, it's in the very beginning of the book. It's under a true story. I'm going to skip that first part. And it's about the fly. There's a small fly burning out the last of its short life's energies in a futile attempt to fly through the glass of the window pane. The whining wings tell the poignant story of the fly's strategy. Try harder. But it's not working. The frenzied effort offers no hope for survival. Ironically, the struggle is part of the trap. It is impossible for the fly to try hard enough to succeed at breaking through the glass. Nevertheless, this little insect has staked its life on reaching its goal through raw effort and determination. This fly is doomed. It will die there on the windowsill. Across the room, 10 steps away, the door is open. 10 seconds of flying time, and this small creature could reach the outside world it seeks. Within only a fraction of the effort now being wasted, it could be free of its self-imposed trap. The breakthrough possibility is there. It would be so easy. Why doesn't the fly try another approach? Try something dramatically different. Here's a key. Try something dramatically different. How did it get so locked in on the idea that this particular route and determined effort offer the most promise for success? What logic is there in continuing until death to seek a breakthrough with more of the same? No doubt this approach makes sense to the fly. Regrettably, it's an idea that will kill. Try harder isn't necessarily the solution to achieve more. It may not offer any real promise for getting you what you want out of life. Sometimes, in fact, it's a big part of the problem. If you stake your hopes for a breakthrough on trying harder than ever, you may kill your chances for success. So where are those open doors and windows? And what does it take to move to that place? Now, I've watched flies. And what happens when they do change direction? They actually land in the windowsill. And they stop and they must contemplate, because it's at that point that they look around and fly in a different direction. So this week, notice, if you find yourself trying harder will produce results, but only in incremental gains. And what we're looking here is for a quantum leap, right? For those particles to jump from one level to another without needing to go through each of the steps that these incremental gains in order to get to our place of success. So think for a moment right now, and think throughout the week when you start feeling like you're trying harder, is there another possibility here? Am I missing this because I'm in the frantic effort of doing the same thing over and over again? What could I do differently? Okay, very, very important. And see what action steps you can take around quit trying harder this week. And so principle number 3 is ignore conventional approaches. And let's see, page 12. To make this is in paragraph 6. Okay, to make a quantum leap, you've got to break out of the rut where you've been running. Okay, this is like the grooves in our brain. I've talked about this before, that we develop our habits, and it takes 21 days for more menial habits and 90 days to change greater habits or longer-lasting habits that we've had, or even more important habits. And this is kind of what this is talking about. You know, to make a quantum leap, you've got to break out of the rut of where you've been running. Second, guess your routines. Overcome the addiction to your old methodologies. Set a new pattern. Quantum leaps come when you seek an elegant solution. I'm going to talk about that in a second. Quantum leaps come when you seek an elegant solution. There are ways that you can do more with less. This kind of goes back to the struggle, right? To the trying harder. Look for the elegant solution. Now, how do we look for the elegant solution? We ask a highly calibrated question. I just mentioned one at the end of the last segment there, but I can't remember what it was. As I was saying, I was going, oh, there's a highly calibrated question. A highly calibrated question is one that is open-ended enough that it's not asking how, because the universe has so many possibilities of how, but yet it's specific enough to let the universe know what it is that we would like. For example, how can I travel to the south of France and still make $10,000? And that actually is a story that my mentor Mary Morrissey actually brought up, and she actually kept using it as an example. And then one day she realized that she was on a ship in the south of France giving a lecture, and the rest of the time she's on this beautiful cruise and making $10,000. Okay, so the important thing here is to ask highly calibrated questions. Look for things that you've never seen before. When I was a small child, we traveled all over the country driving. We were a driving family. And I remember I used to look out the window and try to see things that I've never seen before and in ways that I had never seen them before. And I take that into my everyday life now. It's like, how can I look at serving people in a way that I've never looked at it before? And then the second piece to this is then listen. And a great aspect of listening is to turn off, eliminate the first 5 answers that come to you, because usually that's our ego and not, the infinite mind. But a highly calibrated question. So every question must be answered. It has an answer to it. Now, we need to listen to it, and then we need to find which of those questions resonate with it. Let me check my time here. Okay, we will get moving on. So now this week, take a look at what conventional approaches you're taking and how you can change those. What action steps can you take in that regard? So principle number 4 is think beyond what common sense would allow. And let's see, page 14. If you will rethink how you're thinking, you can multiply your performance potential. This is why we use a 3-year vision. See, we can dream beyond our current beliefs, and when our mind says, well, it's possible that it could happen in 3 years. When we do a 1-year vision, it's more like an intention because, we can see the steps that it'll take to get us there. But if we really want to dream and we really want to let go of some of these common sense thinking, then dream a 3 or a 5-year vision, because your your nervous system actually says, well, who knows? It's possible. Something could change. It could happen. And if we do a 6-month or a 1-year vision, our thing, how am I going to do that? How am I going to get that done? And you must first let your desire guide you, and we do that often by looking at our discontent and then what the remedy is or what we would love. That helps guide us to our desire. And when we do that with a 3 to 5 year vision, it allows us to step outside of our box of our preconceived constraints, The last 2 paragraphs there on page 14, true, there are limits, but you don't need to worry about them. Your real limits are far beyond your artificial boundaries. That's really good news, isn't it? I'll read that again. Your real limits are far beyond your artificial boundaries. That means your belief systems that are running you right now. The real limits won't box you in, but the false ones you're carrying around in your mind are the self-imposed prison. So how do you break out of the jail? It's through surrender. You have to forfeit some of your old beliefs and sacrifice some of those sensible thinking patterns. So-called common sense can be a curse that puts a ceiling on how far you reach and how low you fly. U squared, the quantum leap strategy, is based on uncommon sense. And so many of you have taken that leap in this work and seen the benefit of, this often jumping into this type of work is a quantum leap, is a leap of faith almost. How do I know that's going to work? How am I going to get this? But, your intention, your vision that you bring to this, even your desire that you made that leap, that's what changes your life. That's uncommon sense.